Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Illogically Speaking. I am your host, the logical lady Jossie. Got my co-host Big G. What's happening?
What's good with you? What's good with you?
Man, I'm happy to say, but also sad to say, this is our last show for the year. It's been a great ride for these past 5 months. This is July. Sheesh. Yeah, we've been holding it
Went
down.
by fast.
Right. It went by for really quickly. But this is our last show for the year. You know, give us a little holiday break, some time to revamp. And this is the end of season 1. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. Hope you guys will definitely be back for season 2. I just want to thank everyone that's just watched and given us support, feedback, tuned in, shared, laughed with us, commented, everything. So I just want to thank all of you guys. So I just want to start by also thanking Ari for coming by last week. That was kind of dope.
Appreciate you.
That was a little unexpected, but I really enjoyed it. It gave us a little more insight. And with thanking Ari for coming by, I just want to start by thanking all my guests from this year that have stopped through Illogically Speaking and helped out Vic when I wasn't here, talk shit when Vic wasn't here, and just when we both were here. So I just want to thank Chong and Al for the first Fellas Week, Francis and Denise for the ladies holding it down, Andre for coming through, giving us a preview of The Second Coming. That was dope. Andre and I think it was Al for coming back, holding it down when I was gone. Sharita for just letting us know how Soul Food was going to happen on Soul Food, another sister show here. Indy, that was so dope. I gotta have
that was
Indy.
Dope. Yeah,
Indy definitely
absolutely.
I think that was probably one of my favorite shows. Was definitely
absolutely.
Indy.
Mine hands down.
And then Ari last week, that was also dope. So I just want to thank everyone who's come and helped and contributed to Illogically Speaking and has been part of our extended family. So thank you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
So this week we are just going to wrap up 2020, thankfully. But you know, it hasn't been. I think some people have said that this has been their worst year, and for some it has. I do understand, you know, a lot of death and things like that and job loss. But for me, it hit me hard, but it definitely was not my worst year, and it could have been a lot worse. Right. It could have been a lot worse. I think it showed a lot of resilience and a lot of just people's creativity, people's just ingenuity, people just having faith. It tested all those things, and people just getting out and just doing what you have to. It shows what you have to do when you're thrown up against the wall and you don't have shit else, but you got to just figure it out. The biggest part was the kids. I think people really didn't know their kids until those schools shut down. That was a whole different situation. But I saw something and it kind of bothers me when I saw it, but I think I'm looking at it from the wrong way. I saw something that said, like, in 2020, with all this going on, if you didn't either start a new business or do something creative, you wasted this time. And I was offended at first. I was like, first of all, everyone is not a business person. Let's be clear about that. Everyone is not have their own business. Without workers, you're not going to have your business. There are some people that are just meant to be workers. But also, I think this was a time where people struggled financially, and starting a business was, while it sounds good to do, you still have to maintain a household. You lost 60% or 40% of your income because you're only receiving unemployment. And to say you need to start a business, it's just a little, to me, insensitive. It was just like, look, I'm still struggling to keep my lights on, let alone, because I don't know any businesses that don't take money to start up. So it was kind of like, kill people, just let people deal with this however they deal with it. And I'm not knocking nobody's hustle on however they dealt with this, whether you drank it out, smoked it out, started a business, exercised it out, whatever, because this is an unprecedented time. This is something that we've never been through before. So there's no right or wrong way to deal with it. You know what I mean? This was a lot. It's a strain on people, and people don't even take consideration the emotional toll that 2020 took on us. Like, you stuck at home. Like I know my mom worked in an office and she went in 5 days a week, and now she works home. And she went through this time where she was like having anxiety from just being in the house. She was like, I need to be around people. I need to get out. I need to do something. But she's 65. I mean, she's in pretty good health. 66. Sorry, Mom. But she's in pretty good health. But she still doesn't need to be out and about with the masses. And, she's
Right.
also a grandmother who's 80 something. So, I mean, it's an emotional toll for a lot of people. And I just say, shout out to everybody who made it through, who's still making it through, because this is crazy. 2020, we're just going to run down the calendar of 2020 a little bit. Some of the highlights of 2020. 2020 has been bananas. But in January, it started out pretty mellow. It was like, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle decide that they don't want to be royals anymore, basically. They said, fuck this, we're out. I was all for it. I was like, bet, come on. Hey, we already knew it when he married this half black, half white girl or whatever. We already knew it. When you got some brown in there, that's not gonna last long. Harry's always been a rebel. We were like, cool, come on over to the dark side.
What you're not gonna do is gonna kick in sooner or later.
Hello. You already know. What you're not gonna do is tell me that I gotta wear these funky gloves and this little hat everywhere. No, that's not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen.
And I think just mixing an American with European, a British person,
different.
It's totally different. Everything, let alone a royal. That's crazy. You already knew that was not going to be a good look. So that was just, kind of a little fun little wink at the beginning of 2020. We were like, all right, bet, hey, we got some flavor in 2020. Fast forward to the end of January 26th, we lost Kobe Bryant. Now, I remember that Sunday like nobody's business. Like I can remember the moment. Like I first saw it on Facebook and you know how people report stuff and I'm like, stop playing. So I started looking through other media and I didn't see anything. And at this time, there were basketball games on TV. Basketball and football. And I'm looking and there's nothing going across, no tickers going across the bottom. Like there's nothing saying that he passed. I'm like, this is a lie, whatever. So I'm getting all these texts and I'm like, whatever, it's not true. And then they broke on ESPN because I'm looking at CNN, I'm looking at everything. And the only thing I saw it on was TMZ. And I'm like, they full of shit. Yeah, whatever. This Kobe Bryant, if it was true, ESPN would have been broke this. But what happened was TMZ was like right there somehow. And they got it first. And then it was confirmed. And when I tell you, I like kind of broke. Like I have a special thing for Kobe. Like that's my guy. He's 1 day older than I am. Or he was. He's August 23rd, 78. And his daughter, his numbers that he wore was 8 and 24, which is my birthday. So when Kobe came into the league, I played ball. So when I came into the league, that was like my dude. Like I was like, oh shit, he's one of my, like this is my people. So I've always been a Kobe fan. Like in the Kobe LeBron thing, I was always Kobe. I was pro Kobe. I was a Lakers fan before, but when I say this hit hard, and then it came out that his daughter was with him, that just like sent me over the top. Like I was like, yo, I can't imagine just being a mother. First of all, you lose your husband, but let alone your daughter. And I went out and I hung out with some friends that day. We went to a group bowling event, and I'm like, yo, I gotta do this. Like, it was just somber and it was just sad. And it was a lot of disbelief. Like, it's almost one of the things, like, he's one of those people that you just almost don't believe that he's gone.
Right.
And then in weeks to come, the tributes and his memorial service was just amazing. Michael Jordan, like, gave some laughs and it was just a really good thing. But I think Kobe's death set the tone for 2020. I think that was one of those, shit. Here we go. You remember where? Like, how did it hit you? Like, were you a Kobe fan? You're more a LeBron fan, or were you a Kobe fan?
I'm a LeBron fan, but I'm still a Kobe fan. Mm-hmm. I love anybody who's that competitive.
Right.
You understand? Right. So that's why, and plus the Lakers always been my oldest brother. That's his favorite team on earth. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't no going against Kobe. Like, I had no argument to go against Kobe. You understand what I'm saying? So I had to root for Kobe just because Big Bro rooted for Kobe and there wasn't no competition now. So yeah, I was a big Kobe fan. And when my other brother had texted me and asked me like, bro, you heard about Kobe? I'm like, what about Kobe? Because I work nights. Right?
Look, where he going to now? He coming back? Like, what?
Hey, I work overnight. So during the daytime, I'm out of commission. So when I get the text, I'm like, huh? So I go straight to my ESPN app. I'm like, and it seems so real, like Kobe.
Right.
Then when you find out his daughter was with him, I have a daughter, that instantly just made me like, oh. Ooh, it just hurts something in you when you have a
Yeah.
daughter and you hear something like that. It's just, so yeah, I'm a big Kobe fan.
It was a big thing on media reporting, I remember, after Kobe passed, because basically his wife kind of found out through media, through, I think, TMZ type thing. Like, she wasn't even notified yet. And it was a big thing around TMZ being insensitive and things like that. So it's kind of like, are we supposed to hold something like this, or do we take the sensitive route and say, well, maybe his wife hasn't found out first, and things like that? And I understand. I understand both sides, because we the people do want to know. You know what I'm saying? We want to know this stuff. Clearly, there's a lane for TMZ. There's people that love TMZ. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting bigger by the year. But I do understand the side of, well, let them tell his wife first. But how are they supposed to know who's told whom at that point?
Right.
So
and it's like they all basically trying to break the story at the same time. So if you got a bunch of, when you have news, it's just part of the capitalistic society in general. It just encapsulates that our society in general, and there's no way around it. Yes, it's a tragic event, but news is business.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. Ultimately, it's a business, and this was huge news, and it happens. Again, I think a lot of fans were grateful to find out when they did. You know, they were happy to know, but it does kind of sucks that his wife had to find out that she lost not only her husband and her daughter through media.
But that's one of the prices of being famous.
Famous, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just,
you find out a lot of things. I've seen so many celebrities that found out so many things by social media. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I found out he just had another kid. What? It's just comes with the territory. But now with social media, I don't even think it's just the media. I think it's even social media. You find out so many things.
Because news flow fast.
That you wouldn't find out. So again,
it's so much faster when you can put it on when you don't have to explain the story. That's what social media has allowed news organizations to do, to run with a headline without a story.
Yep.
Kobe Bryant dead at, you know what I'm saying, helicopter crash. Right then, we all like, Kobe Bryant? Now we look at it, you know what I'm saying? Now we looking everywhere for, can we find more information? Because that's what social media allows us to do. It allows us to put out information without much information backing up the information. It's just, so that's just, and then you famous, you're adorned by because a lot of basketball fans look at Kobe as an extended family member, because you spent 20 years attached to this sport, attached to this team.
Absolutely. I know, like, I know grown men that like shed tears or shed a tear or three. You know what I mean? I even know a couple guys that played in the league, and they were like, yo, this is just not even just losing a player. This is just losing an icon. And someone that you looked up to. And I couldn't imagine losing like my favorite teacher, or, you know what I mean? That person that kind of molded who you are, made you what you do, who you are. Like, I can imagine. So, yeah. So welcome to 20. That was the beginning of 2020 starting to go, ooh, here we go. It's tipping down now. Here we go. And keep in mind, and so in January, it says the World Health Organization declares corona a global health emergency. Now, at this point, it was in China, and it was international. There weren't many cases here. I do remember at that point in January, even early February, I was working in the medical field, in a medical office. So we kept our TV on, you know, medical channels and CNN. And I remember seeing like a couple cases hit Washington State. And I was like, oh, what should some bitch then travel to China and brought that coronavirus over here? But I remember when it was over there, it was just like a thing that's another China thing. Like, oh, them, you know, they always got something. And it was a couple cases that hit Seattle, and it was like, or like the Washington State area. And I was like, oh, it's over here, but it's still over there. Like, it was right. Cases. And then I saw a couple cases at GW hospital area in DC, which is George Washington Hospital, which is literally 3 blocks from where I work. Like, it was cases in that area. And I was just like, wait a minute now. What's the coronavirus thing going on? Like, I remember it's still not being big. Like, we didn't have information on it. We didn't know really what the symptoms were. We just know that it was this virus and people were dying. But it was still over there. It wasn't here yet. And it was still like, okay, so we went on and lived life and kept doing what we do. So that's when we first got the first taste of the Rona in early February, like late January. February 5th, Donald Trump is acquitted on articles of impeachment for 2 counts. That was, I mean, I hated to say this, but I was not surprised. I think the 2 counts were abuse of power. Okay. Shit's been going on forever. And then obstruction of Congress. And he was acquitted on both. And I was not like, I don't even think, first of all, this kind of went past a lot of people. Like, many people didn't even know what the fuck was going on. But it just kind of just breezed by and it happened and that was what it was. No one talked about it anymore. He's acquitted. Great. Who cares? Like, that's all it was. Nothing new. Again, 2020. Our guy Trump knows how he's a business guy. He's very smart in certain ways.
Because the people who don't like you aren't going to trump a victory for you. It's not going to make a headline that you just beat something that they were setting up for you to fail at. You just beat that. As Donald Trump, because that's what the Democrats or the left was screaming, was impeachment.
Yeah.
And he pretty much just blew it out the way. So of course you're not going to
nothing.
Yeah, CNN not going to pump that as big news. MSNBC is not going to.
Better than I though. It didn't even seem like that. There was like, no sweat. I'm going to beat this shit. Like it was just like, Tooey. Like I'm done with this. So that was just like 2020.
2020.
Also in February, Harvey Weinstein was convicted of rape. Of all these charges that basically that kicked off this Me Too movement. Let's be clear, like a couple years before, Harvey Weinstein really was one of the people that just kind of, the name you kept hearing. You just kept hearing this. But what I find odd is I didn't hear enough about him during the trial. I don't even remember hearing much of the trial. I haven't heard much of shit since. Yet we hear Bill Cosby's name every goddamn week. We hear R. Kelly every goddamn week. Like, it's just like, he was one of the most heinous, like, predators in this whole thing. And he just kind of like, hey, he got his shit and they're finally getting his ass handed to him. But he's probably chilling in some luxury jail, like living his last days on earth, because he's old as fuck, let's be clear. But right. I don't hear anything else. It was kind of like, oh, he was convicted, great, that's it. And then nobody cared anymore, which is not unusual. It was right. like Me Too was huge in, I would say early 2019, I would say, like late 2019, when that whole R. Kelly stuff was going on. But in 2020, it's kind of like, I haven't heard much Me Too anymore. Like
after they caught their white man, it's like, okay, that's enough. We went too far. That's what it looks like. It looks like, oh, okay, now we got a white man and they caught in this. Let's back up. Let's be quiet now. It wasn't aimed at. It was a witch hunt at black man.
Like it was definitely a witch hunt. For anything though, it was like, oh, Aziz Ansari groped me in 2004 in elementary school. Like, what the fuck? Like, you were getting all these stories, and then now 2020, it kind of just went away. Like when Harvey Weinstein, was that the big catch? Like, I don't know. That's kind of. But again,
that wasn't a big catch. That was the one they caught in there, and white men basically shut it down.
That was the one
that basically shut it down.
First of all, there's no way that Harvey Weinstein could not have been found not guilty. That like he had to be convicted. Like with all the shit, like it was known though. Like everybody.
You had a segment of the black population was like, hey, why we only Me Too and our people? What about Harvey Weinstein? What about Harvey Weinstein? Black people did that to the extent where they had to be like, okay, well, come on, Harvey, we got to get you.
Gotta get you finally, because they was
what I'm saying? They was at Russell Simmons, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby.
Everybody, like it was.
Everybody was just like Me Too, black men, Me Too. It was like this whole season on black men for Me Too. But as soon as they call Harvey Weinstein, where the fuck Me Too in that?
You by yourself, you lady. We're gonna give you all this one to shut the fuck up. That's basically what it sounded like. Like, all right, we're giving you this one. That's enough of this bullshit. That's kind of what it felt like and sounds like. But yeah.
Absolutely.
March, we're moving into March. So February, we kind of heard the COVID talks, but March 11th, the COVID-19 outbreak is officially labeled a pandemic. Now, let me rewind a little bit. 2-3 weeks prior, in the end of February, the February 22nd to be exact, I had a party at my home. It was a fight party, and I had roughly 50 people here. I had 50 people in my home, and at that time there was no thought of COVID. Like it was still whatever. Fast forward 1 week later, I went up to another part of Maryland party, and that Monday I was sick as a dog. Like I had a fever, had to leave work, had all these flu symptoms. Like basically I ended up having the flu. But at that point, like in the beginning, like this was the last weekend in February. So about March 1st is when I'm getting these symptoms. And then here comes the COVID talk. Nigga, can I tell you how scared I was? I was like, oh, mama, Jesus coming to get me. I was like, sweet baby Jesus, he calling me home. Here come Uncle Charles.
Your anxiety shot through the goddamn roof.
I was like, oh, they take me home. But I went to the doctor. I had a respiratory infection and I had the flu. But again, the symptoms at that time, they were so very close. But like, I think I had a wet cough, but COVID has like a dry cough or something like that. So look, I'm holding on to that inch of hope. Like, well, my cough is wet. See this phlegm? See, I'm not sick like that. But it was crazy because I got in an Uber about a week after I got better. And I remember this is the 11th. So we're talking around March 10th, 8th or so. And I remember having a conversation with my Uber driver. He was like a CNN buff and he was just talking to me. And I said, yeah, I just got over like a flu thing. And this motherfucker, when I say he shut everything down, he was like, fuck you mean you had the flu? Like I felt like if he could put a shade up, he would have totally put a shade up on me. And I think that's in the beginning of March is where people really started getting that coronavirus. Like, hold up, did you just sneeze? Did you cough? Like they didn't know what it was, but anytime anyone had any kind of illness, everything was coronavirus. So March 11th, it was declared a global pandemic. It was labeled a pandemic. And that scared people. That shook people. Just hearing this shit was like here. I remember Italy being on like full like lockdown, like nobody in the streets, everything closed. And then when it hit over here, March 13th is when they shut like our area down. Like it was like 5 o'clock. You motherfuckers, we closing the government, we closing all these restaurants, we closing all of this stuff. And I remember being like, well, fuck, why don't we just do what Italy did? Send everybody home for like 2 weeks, stay the fuck in the house. But that's easier said than done. Apparently there are jobs that have to be done. Yes. I was quote unquote an essential worker. My job wasn't that essential, but I was considered essential. And there were people that had to be in the streets. And I remember 3 things. I remember toilet paper running out. I remember hand sanitizer and masks. That's what I just remember about when everything first started. Like we weren't even thinking about school. And it's weird because the kids were still in school at this point. That's the craziest shit. Like they closed the government down, but our kids were still going to school. It was like, what the fuck? Wait a minute.
We pulled the plug early. You know what I'm saying? Like we pulled the plug early on that shit. But
did you have to work throughout all of this?
Yeah, they sent us home right around the time when they named it a pandemic. They shut down, sent everybody home from that point on. As soon as they announced it was a pandemic, emails went out, phone calls went out. Everybody worked from home. So we was good on that.
Did you work from home or were you just basically SOL? Because apparently these companies were like, we can't do this from home, but
shit.
They lied to me.
Found a way. Yeah, they found a way. They found a way to send everybody home. And I don't know how you gonna get half the people back now.
After you've already made it known that it's possible for me to do this from home, and it feels scary, and it's just we don't know how it's gonna come back, but it comes like how is it gonna be around?
And people were more productive from home.
It seems that way, right? because they want to make sure that they look like they're doing work. Like you want to get paid for it. But I have some friends whose jobs literally you just couldn't do from home, and they lost their jobs behind it. And it's a shame. Like my aunt works in like the catering industry, and you're not having no events, so ain't no doing that shit from home. Like you lose out. But she's found something else since then. But I mean, like, unemployment helped a little, but that shit, Maryland is backed up. Like I know so many states. There's a woman, she said she filed in Virginia back in April and she just got paid in November. So what are you doing all this time? And it's not like you can just go get a part-time job somewhere, because everyone's in the same boat. Like all those jobs that nobody wanted, everyone has already, gotten them. They went to McDonald's, they went to Wendy's, everybody's driving Uber, everybody's doing DoorDash and those things. So it was just that was very scary.
And those are the people that I feel the most empathy for, are the people who were in the service industry that depend on meeting people face to face. That their business absolutely depends on meeting people face to face. And to go back to the beginning of conversation we was having, where you were saying that I think we was off camera, where you said that some people demand that people be creative and all of this stuff right here. Those are the people I think they were talking to. They had to be. Because those are the entrepreneurs, those are the people who took a lot of risk in starting their businesses, that the real small businesses that we should be trying to support and keep alive some kind of way. But again, with no events, you can't gather more than 10 people at your house. During that time, during that little 4-month period, like a 3 or 4 month period where
it was tight, like it was real tight, man. Like really tight. I think it opened up a little in the summer, like when the summer months hit, but from like March until like even late mid-June, it was kind of like, nothing. And like here, I'm in Maryland, so in PG County, we're about to go, but we're back on another lockdown where restaurants and bars are at 25% capacity. And no outdoor stuff in it or whatever. It's just weird. Like, imagine you being a waitress or a bartender and you're bringing in, and it's 25% of the people there on your busiest night. That's crazy. You go from making $1,000 and you're now making $250. That's why OnlyFans is popping. Like, I be on OnlyFans too. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it hit me that hard, I'm not knocking nobody's hustle. Like, it is
right now during COVID. You can't knock anybody's hustle right now during this COVID, man. Because for some people, for those who can work from home like myself, we often forget that it's people out here who don't have that option.
Absolutely.
You understand? People who work with their hands, people who work in factories, and all where factories are getting shut down, and all of these things because it's an outbreak of COVID at the factory. Now, these people, the whole corporation has to rethink how we can bring people in a safe manner and still get the job done in a productive and efficient manner.
You can't have people close together. So in a factory assembly line, you can't have people standing beside each other. So now you're double working certain people because they have to do the job of probably 2 people because they can't stand beside someone else. It's just a mess. My brother sells cars. My brother he owns a car lot. And when I say at first, I was like, I know he can get hit hard. Like, because first of all, you can't go you're not going out to test drive a car. And then people, again, their money's down. But he said, never fails. He said tax time, it literally held him over for a couple months. He said people were literally buying vehicles. But again, to drive where? Nowhere. And so I will say that I hope a lot of people stacked in their savings, the ones that were still getting paid to work from home, because now you don't have to go out for lunch. You don't have to drive back and forth. You didn't have to pay for daycare at that point. You don't have to buy more clothes. Like, it's a lot of things get your head, because barbershops and hair salons were closed. So that money, I would hope that a lot of people stack. But again, I saw a lot of people also saying, Amazon been pulling up to my house more now than ever. They know my address. So I fell into that at first. I definitely did. I was like, oh shit, I got some extra money. Let me order this. And then after a while, I was like, chill, but
right.
now
I did too.
It's weird to see how this holiday season is going to be.
But you can only change people so much. They'll adapt to try to find a way to do what they want to do. Yeah, they're gonna find a way. If someone was bad with money in the streets, if you put them in their house, they're gonna go to the computer and be bad with money. You know what I'm saying? So if you bad with money, you just bad with money, period. No way around that.
Also in March, this will tie into later, but March 13th was the day that Breonna Taylor was murdered. We didn't hear anything about this. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't hear anything about this till months later. Like, I didn't know who Breonna Taylor was. I didn't hear anything about this case until months later. So that's going to tie into where we're going to go later. But she was actually murdered March 13th. Also in March, the Summer Olympics was canceled. I don't know about you, but okay, I don't watch the Winter Olympics. I watch the Summer Olympics because I want to see the basketball and all that good stuff. Like sports, when sports start getting canceled, I was like, wait a minute now, what we doing? What's this COVID stuff going on? Basketball started getting canceled. Then they started canceling the NFL and baseball leagues changed. Like, everything changed. And it was like, wait a minute, now you're messing with our leisure. Like, I'm home. I want to watch some shit. And I couldn't watch my basketball championships and finals and all of this. It's weird having the finals in October. Like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm so used to that first week in June being like, okay, here come the final. You know what I'm saying? You getting ready for all of that. You know, you firing up your grill, getting your beer ready Friday night. And it was just like, nope, none of that. So it was a very weird, like, year.
Summer, like the summer was the hardest thing to get past.
Yeah.
Early in the summer was the hardest thing to get past. A lot of people ain't make it. A lot of relationships ain't make it.
That was my other part. I was gonna say there's a lot of things that were tested. April, that's when the schools really started closing and saying they were done for the rest of the year. I think that's when schools announced that they were not opening up by the end of the year. I mean, anymore for the year. When I say that's when the panic set, that's when the parents were like, whoa, hold up, time out.
Hold on.
I gotta teach this motherfucker. What? I remember my coworker, she has twin 5-year-olds, and she had a 12th grader and an 11th grader. So her 2 older ones and then 2 young ones. And her 2 5-year-olds were not in the same class. And she still had to come to work. So it was like, how do I teach 2 5-year-olds at the same time doing social distance while my 2 older kids still have to do their schooling, but then daycares and things are closed? So it was kind of like a frenzy of fuck. Like, I don't even think did anyone fail in 2020? Like, did anyone stay back? Like, I think it was, they said, like, if you were not already failing, you couldn't fail. So
they just chalked 2020 up to like, bro,
you got it.
Just
and that was the first year kids didn't have proms, and that was kind of sad. Like, I know you're not big, you don't care about proms, but for like a girl like me, like, the prom is everything. Like, that's what you look forward to your whole year, and then literally 2 months before your big day, they say, well, fuck it, we done this, we shutting everything down. And then that's when you start having drive-by graduations and people start getting doing their little horn honking. And I remember,
because it's an honor in walking across that stage. It's a certain badge of honor until adulthood for a lot of us, like walking across that stage, receiving your diploma.
It was for my parents, for me.
Yeah.
But it was, I think, for a lot of kids, for a lot of parents, they were like, fuck the prom, but I wanted to see my son walk across the stage. What they did here in Maryland is in the summer, they had a later like ceremony, and you got to have a certain amount of people there. And then they did it by, I guess, groups. Like, this group gets to do it today. And then this group, so at least they got the thrill of walking across the stage. I don't know what they're going to do from here going on out. Like, that's huge though. Like, to be a kid and you don't go to your prom, you're like, what the fuck am I here for? Like, I want to wear my dress and put on my cap and gown and shake my little thing up there for my whole family to act like they don't have no sense. Like, and then you can't have the parties. And I think that was, if I was a teen, I do want to give kudos for struggling for teenagers right now.
Absolutely.
We didn't give them enough credit, but as an adult, we're dealing with this. But imagine as a teenager having to deal with something like that. Like that.
Right.
To me, that's heartbreaking.
Your whole life revolves around socializing as a teenager. Like that's the biggest thing in your life is socializing. And for how COVID came and shut everything down for a teenager, oh man, life is over. Like this is not fair.
What?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was hanging out at the mall, going to see your friends. Like I remember seeing friends literally crying because they got to finally see each other for once a few months later, because I mean they just didn't get to do it. And it was again, kudos to teenagers, because that's big. Like that's a big shout out to you all. So moving into May, it was same things, but then we move into May 25th, and George Floyd is murdered by police department. That changed everything even more. Like we already had this COVID stuff, and then you put this on top, and June was nothing but civil unrest to me. It was just like people were tired of this shit. We had the Black Lives Matter protests. We had all the protests everywhere. It wasn't just one place. I don't know why this was fine. I think this was the like boiling point, because people were just frustrated from already being in the house.
Yeah.
And then you just put this one that was just happened to be caught on film, like so many others were. But this one, I think at this time, people were just tired. They were just like fed up.
What you had in May was you had people who had lost their jobs. Excuse me. You had people who lost their jobs. You have people who are losing loved ones. And then on top of that, you still killing disenfranchised people. Yeah. So you got all of these things working together, and people sick of being in the house. Kaboom. Yeah. People were just sick and tired of being sick and tired at that point.
Absolutely. The best quote that I saw, one of the better quotes, it said something like, Black people are tired of loving a country that has never loved them. And we're just tired of this shit. Like we tired of being patriotic and loving them and expected to be patriotic and expected to love America, when America's never really shown us love at no point, especially when you start hearing shit, but when you're hearing constantly shit like MAGA, make America great again. When the fuck was it great for us? And it's like, then you had the Ahmaud Arbery case, where the two white men basically shot this Black guy, thought he was a robber. He was a robber. And he fit the description. I'm like, who are you? Who are you to say you're going to take life? And it took a while for them to prosecute these men. And people were like, we're tired. And I think the deaths hit hard, but I think it was the lack of prosecution that we were just like, what do you mean? Like, how do you not see this as murder? How is, even with the George Floyd thing, even the murder itself was one thing, but the lack of prosecution was just like, we couldn't, like, people were just tired, and it rang a lot of bells. I think DC, we had tons of protests here.
It wasn't just that, like, it was the straw that broke the camel's back for Black people. When I'm talking about strictly for our people, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. We had been seeing this now for the last, I'll say since Obama. To be honest with you, since Obama. So from Obama all the way up to now, where we're putting these things, I'm talking about as far as us videotaping these things, as far as us recording these acts of just police brutality. Compound that on the fact that you have now white people feeling the same way. At the same time.
I think that's the difference with, say, like a Rodney King from 93, 94, or 92, 93. That's the difference. It was, I think back then it was a us thing. It was just like Black people were tired, we were pissed, and that's where the riots came from. But I think by the time 2020 hit, and this shit's still going on, it was like other people are starting to see, like, the fuck, this is inhumane. This is not what this country's supposed to be built on.
Because they couldn't believe it for a long time.
Right in their face.
Even when it was put in their face, they were still like, well, there's part of the tape we didn't see. But then when it started happening to them, I remember, you remember the white guy who was getting arrested at the airport?
Yes.
And what did he say? You're treating me like I'm Black.
Yep.
So that lets you know they're not ignorant to it. but they just didn't never want to be treated like that. Now that it's not a race thing anymore. Like police are literally across the board not giving a fuck to anybody these days. You understand what I'm saying? So now, and that's what exploded. Everybody was tired of how policing is done. Everybody tired of it.
I remember from June, July, like people just literally going out all the time, like protest. And even some looting in some places or whatever, rioting. I'm not mad at it. Hey, do what you all have to do. That's just not my tactic. And I was cool with it. I was like, hey, do what you got. I can't tell you how angry you are and how you deal with your anger. Then DC did this lovely thing of making Black Lives Matter Boulevard adjacent to the White House. That's the best part of it, that it's like basically White House is right here. Black Lives Matter Boulevard is right here. So you have to see it. And then they painted this and it was cool. And then it kind of died down. That's my thing. Like that was my whole thing with everything. I understand that we are all angry, but now what? Like, what's the next move? So we moving into August. Another Black guy is paralyzed by the Wisconsin police. Mr. Blake was, and then they started talking. Remember, murder hornets. Now let me just backtrack from these murder hornets. That's when we start talking about. People started talking about like the Bible. And like they were like, we had the plague and we had these murder hornets, the second coming of Jesus. And I was like, nah, it's just bugs.
Just bugs.
Never heard anything else about them. I never heard anything else about those. But then in August, Kamala Harris was selected as Biden's running mate. When you first heard it, did you think that be honest, was that a good move or was it? No.
Still, I mean, I understood what it was politically and who they was
that's exactly
aiming for. You know what I'm saying? For that it was, but they disenfranchised a whole segment of people from that too. Like a whole bunch of Black people who did not want that, but they knew it was coming. And for the people that I'm in contact with, for the people that I speak with, they didn't like that at all. Absolutely. They didn't like that at all.
I think on the surface, it was a quote unquote good thing. Oh, it's a Black woman. But then once you just peel back one layer of that, you have Biden and Harris and their stances and what they've done as far as to and against Black men, the Black people in general, it was like.
Yeah, and they're showing it every day.
Yeah.
They're showing it, and it's working out for them in real time right now.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Biden phone call was leaked, the way he talking down and his aggressiveness, no stuttering. Notice no stuttering from old Joe when he talking down to Black folks. There ain't no stuttering. He wants to get it clear. So it's just, for me, I'm looking at it like, for the naysayer that was like, I don't know about that. We sitting back and like,
it was a little like, I mean, again, as a Black woman, yes, it's a great thing to have a Black woman as a Black woman.
She's not one of us. She's not one of us.
I mean,
what I mean by one of us,
Howard, she's an Howard, she's an AKA, like, so I get it. Like I said, come January, them ski weebies or whoever they are, they're gonna be all up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. You hear me? Like it's gonna be pink and green. Okay.
I already know, but it's just the fact that people don't see she's not one of us. It's a difference between what her Black and our.
What do you mean? She wore Tim's. But she wore Tim's. And the fact that became a news story lets you know already.
Oh man, like the Cape, bro.
Newsworthy.
Oh, that was crazy.
September brought us the gem. Oh, this was a gem. That was the first presidential debate. September brought us that gem. Man. That goes down in history.
Oh, man.
Listen, and I think once I watched, I think it said it was one of the most watched or either like reviewed presidential debates ever. And I'll be honest, from probably the last Obama election, was probably when I started watching the debates, like 2012 elections. A lot of people just don't watch them. Let's be clear. Like, they already know who they're going to vote for. And in a lot of the cases, they don't watch these things. But when I tell you, our people were sitting down with popcorn watching this foolishness go down, the first one gave us such gems as stand back and stand down. Joe, your son was basically a crackhead. Like, shut up. You, like Mr. Joe Biden saying, shut up. Would you just shut up? Man. That was, when I tell you, one of the highlights of this entire election. Like, we'll get into the second one, but that first one set the tone. Like, it was like, oh, we're definitely in for a shit show. Like, I don't know who gonna win, but whoever it is, we're going down with a fight. Like, this was good stuff.
It was funny because if you can draw up two old men arguing with each other, you could not write that up any better. Two old white men arguing with each other. You could not write that any better. Like, that was just pure comedy genius, man. Like,
the second Joe said, would you just shut up? I knew it was going to be something good to watch. And the poor moderator had no control. These fools are over talking everyone. They just talk when they felt like it was gangster. Like, it was like, literally, like you said, it's like two old people. Like, imagine your two old uncles arguing. You can't answer Jack. Who are you to tell them to chill? And no.
Man, listen, the moderator was laughing. And it got to the point where he was just talking like he was instigating at certain parts. It just sounded like he was instigating, like, oh, you heard that, Joe? Like, it was just comedy all the way around the table, man. That shit was just funny, man. Like, you couldn't have wrote it any better.
That point, and I think all the way up until the last day, it was still very unclear. There was no clear winner. I think in the past, we were kind of know where it was headed. Even okay, so the first Trump election, the 2016, we weren't sure. We were like, well, actually, we were surprised more. We were actually a lot of people were surprised that Hillary didn't win. But this one, it was still very like, this debate gave me nothing clearer on. I don't know who's any better here. I don't know who's gonna win this, but we're here for the shits. So we move into October, which is a couple weeks after that debate. Like, I want to say like a week even. And Trump announces that he tested positive for COVID, him and Melania, and everybody was like, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty much the response all of us gave. We were like, oh, word, oh, darn. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm almost, I was torn. It was kind of like, I didn't even know if it was true, if it was real. I don't know if it was something to say, see, I got it and I'm still walking around just fine. This is a bullshit virus. And I didn't know if he really had it. I didn't know how it was. I didn't know how to take it. If it was a ploy, I didn't know. I personally kind of wanted to see him be a little sicker. Just because.
A lot more people.
No, only because there were so many people that did have it badly and really suffered. And I just wanted it to be a little worse. I'm just to make it known that this shit's serious. I think that because he didn't take it as a serious threat for so long, and in the public eye, and then it was kind of like a slap in the face to the people that actually did lose lives and have it really bad. I had a friend, like I said, that had it, and he said that breathing for him was a chore. It got to the point where he was so tired of trying to breathe that there were times when he did not want to even try to breathe. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so to have your president have it, and then he's walking around 2 days later, walking out the hospital, shaking and giving, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, yeah, motherfucker, fuck you. Like, but, and then for him to be so old and just kind of get over it, it kind of was like, I don't know.
I mean, what we gonna receive from what the president gonna receive as treatment gonna be
right. That's what I say. He has access to a lot of things that we didn't have. So
right. Best believe they got the magic kit He got the magic cake back there, man.
Listen. Then we're moving into October. The vice presidential debates. The only thing that brought me was the Kamala, I'm talking, the black lady. She got black for a second in that. She did. She gave us a little black, but it was nothing great.
Listen, I can't watch Kamala speak for more than probably like 30, 45 seconds before I have to like.
Damn, I said 4 minutes. You said 45 seconds. Why not?
Her voice is annoying to me. The way she talks, the way her voice pitches.
All women's voices are,
my God,
annoying to you for over 2 minutes.
God.
But listen, I think after a while, most women's voices are annoying to you after 2 minutes. So I'm not going to even take that.
But what I'm saying is, hers in particular, she don't get the whole 2 minutes. She get 30 seconds. That's it. So I didn't watch the debate because I can't listen to her voice, to be honest with you. I can't listen to the Joe. We did it. I can't, oh, God.
But also, October brought us the second presidential debate. That was, to me, I'm not going to say it was more presidential, but it seemed more like a presidential debate. But Trump was more prepared than we expected him to be. We definitely didn't expect him to come like he came, and regretfully so. I hate to say that I think he won that one. I don't think Joe was prepared as Trump. I think Joe wanted old Trump to come through, and a prepared Trump came through, which was surprising to everyone. My favorite line was, "Who built the cages, Joe?" I said that shit for like 2 weeks straight. I'm not even. Who built the cages? Joe. Who built the cages? Joe was like, listen, now we talk. Joe started to look stuttery. Joe came through and everything. Donald pressed him out a whole lot. And surprisingly, Joe didn't do as well. Again, I think Trump definitely won that one, surprisingly, and regretfully saying so.
Joe came in and thought he was going to out-compose Trump. He thought he was going to have way more composure than Trump had. But Trump came composed to the max for Trump, for the expectation that was set for Trump.
I would say for him. So he's still talking over and doing his shit, but
it was more controlled. And it was on, and when he did, he was bringing up a valid point.
That crime bill was the thing that was Joe's Achilles at that point in the election, and Joe didn't. And my thing was, Joe, come on, this is the thing that is your Achilles right now. You should have been way more prepared for those questions at any time, not even during the debates, at any time. That bill is going to come up. That bill has been coming up. It's been what people have had doubts about in your whole administration. And for you not to be prepared to answer questions about just
you didn't speak to the people who we needed to speak to.
Yeah.
That whole debate. And that's why, especially for Black people, it was like, oh, okay.
But they didn't. I'm gonna be honest. They didn't care. They still voted for him, and they didn't care about the debates. Their minds were made up at that time, and so that moves us into November. Joe Biden is voted the president elect. To be honest, I was biting my nails. I didn't know either way. There was with these new ways of voting, I knew that we were not going to get an answer on that Tuesday, as we do with every election. We wake up Wednesday morning and we know who the president was. I knew that was not going to be the case. I was not sure either way. I've seen elections be stolen. I've seen trickery and fuckery and every other So I was like, I was out of town. And again, you guys did the show without me that Sunday, the day after that it was called that Joe won. And I was just like, I remember being out of town and we screaming, yay, we won. But we're up in bumfuck Maryland and we're in Trump town, literally, you are. Like we see the signs and we're like, let's pipe these like celebrations down. And that's crazy in 2020 that we can't even celebrate
You know
easily.
where you at.
Yeah.
You can when you get back home.
Listen. So that was just, and then through November, Trump still never conceded. It was still, we're going to fight this. And has he even conceded yet? I know that it just recently was, Supreme Court recently turned down, for them to recount. But has he conceded formally yet?
Nah, he giving a lot of lip service.
We are 6 weeks beyond the election. Damn there, we're 6 weeks beyond the election, and he still has yet to concede. I think this definitely has to be like a first. Like it has to be. But
it is a first.
He's not someone that's going to ever concede. He's not.
No.
That guy.
What he'll do, he's just gonna walk away begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Like I told, like me and Andre and Al was saying, and the system bigger than you. Mm-hmm. It's gonna get you out the way. You're not gonna stop the process of how the machine runs, how the corporation run. They will move you out the way. But he lost on a Supreme Court that he basically put
in there, and absolutely. But here's the
still lost.
Him not conceding and him not accepting it has bred what was here in DC this past weekend. They had the supposedly MAGA march and all these the what do they call it? The Proud Boys were here, and they're out here just protesting and saying things like Joe Biden is going to get out of there one way or another. So with him not conceding and accepting it. But here's the thing. Okay, so now Joe Biden's gone. Now you have a black woman in there. Like, come on, bro. Like, what are you going to do?
I mean, let me put it like this. The machine feeds too many people to let one segment of the population attempt to overthrow it. This is a machine that
I'm worried about. It's just the foolishness that we don't have the luxury of doing. We can't combat these fools. These fools can literally march up and down our streets and we can't say shit. And we got to sit right beside them. And I think the scariest part is this Trump administration brought out so many people's real characters. They cannot go back. They are who they are. You know what I'm saying? It's no going back into your shell that you were in before. Now you're out and proud of it, and we just got to sit and look beside you like, hey buddy, hey neighbor, like the fuck.
Because what we got to realize is that they're seeing the erosion of their white supremacy go away.
Yeah,
they're seeing the erosion of it. It is slowly eroding right now through every aspect, and this is their last little step of showing white supremacy. See, we can do this and y'all can't do anything. No, okay, cool, y'all can walk through the streets in large numbers, surrounded by police officers to protect you. Okay, what the fuck you want us to do? Okay. That's the reality of it, because at the end of the day, this, like I said, this is their last gasp. This is their last, because their daughters,
like it is, yeah.
Their daughters dating white boys, black boys, and black girls dating white boys now. So it ain't no way around it no more. We have amalgamated into and assimilated into American culture. It's gone now for both sides when you think of it. For the ultra pro black to the ultra pro white, y'all got to come to realization that the assimilation process is too far gone for it to be anything else right now. So that's that. When you seeing everybody protesting on each side, it's trying to keep two extreme cultures that slowly fading because the youth don't give a fuck about either one of them anymore.
At all. And the youth is going to be key here. Like, these motherfuckers is not playing. Like, I'm actually proud of a lot of our younger people that came through. Like, yeah, they came through and voted for Obama, but they came through and showed action a lot in this time.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, you mofos aren't. I'm proud of you.
What you seeing is the youth making demands now. You see a lot of the youth saying, well, what we gonna get for our vote?
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's why I frequent Twitter. That's where a lot of them are. A lot of them are. And they looking at the older people like,
for y'all do. Yeah.
And
we
have
our I'm not my ancestors movement and all that stuff. So I mean, everybody looks at this to think that they could have done better than the people before them, but it was not.
And they're supposed to. They're supposed to.
We had a couple honorable mentions for 2020 of things that were big headlines, but I don't know how I don't want to put them in the big headlines category. Again, 2020 July, Kanye announced that he was running for president. Did you ever take that serious? Did you ever think that it would gain wings or do anything? No. Jada's entanglement. That changed things. That shit put ladies on the map for their entanglements. Listen, I think that gave women power to say, finally, like women been doing it for years, but Jada's entanglement really gave women power to say, we doing the same shit too, fellas. Don't sleep. Like, basically. And
for those who didn't already know.
Basically.
Like, for those who thought y'all was still pure, and for those guys who, you know, the Simps and the Capers, you know, they was the only ones that were surprised. The Capers, the ones who throwing their cape and trying to say something about y'all. You know how they get. How dare you hate the black woman? Those guys.
I'm not even gonna talk about this one. I'm just gonna say it. The Washington football team had to change their name from the Redskins, but I think this year it happened finally, because they've been talking about this for years. It happened finally because of all the social justice, the social injustice, the racial the unrest and everything that finally made them say, hey, okay, well, fine, we won't have a name. Let's be clear. Washington fans, they're still the Redskins. I hate to say it, but till y'all get another real name, no one's saying the Washington football team.
I mean, for y'all DC natives, of course, it's always going to be the Redskins. Y'all generations deep in it. You know what I'm saying? It's too late for y'all.
Exactly. Change. Like I said, my grandparents had season tickets since the 60s. So it was like, I'm a Redskins.
Y'all ain't going to change.
Old people. Change. The WAP video is released, and then weeks later, Cardi announces divorce, only to announce that they're back together. Like, welcome to 2020. Like, this is what we're in right now.
But you know what happened was everybody was bored in the house, and we had nothing else to do but be in other people's business.
Their business. Listen, it was bad. Some good things that came out of 2020. I want to give shouts out to D Nice, because that may not be your thing, but I think just in the whole midst of us all being locked in the house, D Nice DJ came through and said, look, people need to feel good. I'm gonna give y'all something to party to. Y'all don't have to go to clubs. I mean, he had everybody showing up, from Oprah to Michelle Obama to everybody just showing up at his parties. And I popped, and he's still doing them though. I popped in last night. Like, D Nice is still doing this thing.
For those people who work at home or who at home chilling at night, whatever you're doing, to put on something that's closely related to a club music or a party atmosphere, that is just it right
there. I think, you know what I'm saying? D Nice, between D Nice and the versus battles, that gave like us something to be like, oh, all right, fuck it. If I'm gonna be in a house, I may at least enjoy something that's not on Netflix, because we've ran through Netflix. The versus battles were dope. I think the most recent, the Brandy Monaco was ginormous, because that was years of but I think the most recent was the Gucci and what's his name, Jeezy battle.
Jeezy.
And people are still fighting over that, which was crazy. But I think versus is the good way to kind of just say, fuck it. We've always been, because in music, people always go against each other. You always put somebody, whether it's Nas and Jay-Z, Beyonce and Rihanna, whomever, there's always going to be competition in music.
Absolutely.
And I think versus is a good way to kind of just finally just put it on the table and see who's the best. And the good thing about versus is there's really no real winner ever named. I think the people always name who's the best. So they are going to root for who they root for. But
that's why they never announce a winner. It's just like one of those things. Like, it's so fan oriented.
Absolutely.
Because music is one of
fans, and that's what it is. And it's dope to see people come. I mean, you had literally Patti LaBelle and Gladys Knight come through and do a versus. Like, they're not really battling each other. It's more about the battle of the aunties, like to see which aunties got those hits. You know what I mean? And I think Swiss Beats and Timbaland for just putting us together, just to give us something More to look back. I mean, I remember the Jill and Erica one. That one was supposed to be like the huge one. That one like did big numbers. Like, and then you had these other ones coming through after them, just doing numbers and numbers and numbers. So it can only go up. So it was
because it started out with them doing it with just producers.
Yeah.
Bringing up their hits. And then we was like, hey, then it piqued everybody's interest. Like, oh, what if you did this person and that person? And then the next thing you know, it was this person and that person. And you couldn't stop watching it.
If you're, especially in hip hop, if you're a hip hop head, you know, competing is just the nature of hip hop. Like that's all it is.
90s hip hop
are saying who
90s hip hop.
Yeah,
that was 90s hip hop. That was the essential 90s hip hop. If you weren't competitive with 90s, and that's what started everything, was those producers going back and playing those 90s and early 2000 hits.
And a bad thing, the thing about Versus is it makes people go back and start downloading these other songs that they forgot about. Like I'm not even gonna lie. I remember the Nelly and Luda battle. I was like, who really wants to see this? But they're playing hits. And I was like, oh, these niggas got hits. These niggas got songs. And I'm like downloading this stuff. So that's dope for the artists that they're getting new downloads and stuff.
Yeah, because it take you back to because music ties you into something. It ties you into a memory, to an era, to a period in your life that you could remember vividly according to that, by just hearing that song. And when and that's what we was watching for. We was watching everything, and every song that we remember where we was at when we heard it, where we heard it at, that we enjoyed ourselves the most, all of that, man. So yeah, that's what made it so memorable for us. A lot of older people, so to speak. It just made us remember how special the 90s was for us.
So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to put a question on your brain, but then I'm going to come back to it real quick. Okay. If you could leave one thing in 2020, what would it be? Don't answer it yet. I'm going to just really quickly go through some of the people that we've lost in 2020. It was a really rough year for us. I think, like I said, we already started with Kobe and Gianna Bryant, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Chadwick Boseman. That was a tough one for me. That was really tough, just to see that he was making these movies, struggling through what he was struggling through. That's what made it hard. I saw an interview with, I can't think of the actor's name, and he said he remembers filming the Five, I forgot what it's called, it's the Spike Lee movie. And he said Chadwick Boseman would go and he would have like a massage therapist and all these people there in his room and in his trailer. And he thought that Chadwick has become Hollywood, but no one knew that he was suffering through cancer at this time. So those people were there basically to help him through his illness. And he said, you never know what someone is going through. You're just going to make judgment. So that kind of like, who else? Alex Trebek hit me hard because I'm a huge Jeopardy fan. I'm a nerd. Yeah, I'm a nerd. King Von, rapper, Sean Connery. Zeus just died, Tiny Lister. Debo just passed the other day, Natalie Desselle. Little Richard. I don't even remember hearing really Little Richard.
I did not hear that. That's news to me right now. I had
Little Richard passed in 2020. I vaguely remember. Civil rights activist John Lewis, Andre Harrell. That was huge for like our culture, like the hip hop era. Like there would be no Puff without Andre Harrell. Let's be clear. Pop Smoke, Eddie Van Halen. There was just so many people that we lost in 2020. Shout out, even family members, loved ones, everyone that didn't make it through COVID and other senseless bullshit. Just 2020, we're going to put it to rest. Hopefully 2021 will be better, but we can't guarantee anything. Just be happy that you're here. So lastly, before we leave, Vic, if you could leave one thing in 2020, you're going to love mine. What would it be? You want mine?
I'm going to take the serious notes because no, I want to laugh.
You don't mind the bullshit. So go ahead.
Just black men, black boys killing each other. Just black men and black boys killing each other. If we can leave that shit in 2020, god damn, that would be, 2021 would be the best year ever.
Y'all could have that. So mine is the word toxic and toxic masculinity, toxic everything. You all can please find. I'm
Thank you.
glad you finally found this
Thank you.
word. Can you please leave the word toxic in 2020? Like everything isn't fucking toxic. Just leave it. Let it be.
Oh man,
That's it. You like that one? I did that just for you, but I hate the word
Thank
toxic.
you.
It's not even toxic
Thank you.
masculinity. It's just
Thank
toxic.
you.
It's toxic.
Toxic.
No.
I'm so sick of toxic people. Toxic this, toxic that. I need a detox, and all this shit. So all that shit. But yeah.
So we ran over. That's the end of this year, the first season. We made it through one whole season of Illogically Speaking. It's your girl, Jossie, my guy, Big G. Happy holidays. We'll see you guys next year. We are
other side of the calendar.
We are out.